Let's just talk about the bearish trend that we've seen the Nigerian market exhibiting this past week, particularly in the first of the results that we've seen coming through. What can we read in terms of what investors are saying about the results that we have seen?
Okay, good afternoon. Thank you for having me this afternoon. Looking at the way the market has traded this week, we've seen that the ASI has lost about 4.48% week to date, and this would be attributable to the activities of profit takers that we've seen in the market. If we look at the second and the third week in February, we'll see that the banking stocks especially rallied so much in the second and the third week of February. And this week we saw that profit takers came into the market and they're taking profit on some of the stock. Looking at stocks like a stock like Nestle, between the opening of this week, where it opened at 420 and the current close of today at 400 Naira, we see that it has lost about 5%. And this is basically attributable to the dividend payout in the stock. Investors were not particularly happy on the payout. It was about a dividend yield of 3%.
Right. Now, if we look at the banking sector, I'm interested. I mean, you're seeing profit taking out of the banking sector ahead of the results season. Now, that's interesting. What are investors saying about the fact that we've got these results coming through, and now some people are voting with their feet?
Yeah, if you look at from the investors, what we're hearing from investors is that investors are actually bullish, especially on the top tier banks like GTB, Zenith, and First Bank. The rumors in the market are positive on the dividend payout. Dividend payout between 60 kobo and 80 kobo are the rumors we're having in the market. And we expect that the results from especially the top tier banks are going to be fantastic. It's just that at the moment, we saw that this week, we saw profit takers in the market, but we're still bullish on the results from the banking sector. If you look at the way the trades went through today, the first day of March, which is closer to the earnings season, we saw that the ASI gained 0.35%, and there was so much activity in volume and value on many of the banking stocks.
Yeah, so pick the winner for me amongst those banks. Who is likely to be making the most here, or perhaps in a sense we can try to gauge who amongst those banks is going to be paying investors fat dividends?
At the moment, well, for most of investors, many of them are comfortable with GTB and Zenith Bank.
Okay, so yesterday we saw, in fact, there have been two stories that have come through from brokerages that watch Nigerian markets, and both have been talking about the Nigerian banking system. The first one that I saw was the S&P report speaking of the improved governance in Nigeria, and then we also had another one yesterday coming through from Renaissance Capital, and they're talking about the changes that have been coming through since the reforms of the Nigerian banking sector last year. So let's begin first by taking a look at that S&P report. It speaks of improved governance. Is that your sense?
Yeah, for us, we think this is actually positive for the market. We think that with the report on S&P, which has increased the rating on the banking sector, especially in terms of the risk management and the corporate governance, we think this is positive for the market, and we think that investors will be impressed by this, and we expect that improved activities will be in the market on the back of this.
Now, of course, one of the changes that came through was this whole change around the length of times that directors are allowed to serve on the banks. Largely, this seems to have been accepted by the market, and yet with people serving longer in those positions, there comes also, of course, stability. Is that something that the market is looking at and the market is happy with?
We think that for directors, I mean, the fact that you have a maximum period that you sit on the board, I would think it's actually a better way towards corporate governance, as you having a period of time and then the opportunity for change on the board of a company is actually a positive one.
Yeah. What about competition? Because we know this, of course, reduced the number of banks that are operating in Nigeria's banking system. Has that in any way improved with the new banks that have emerged out of the restructuring?
We think that for now that the transformations in the bank have actually come through, and we have fewer banks which are stronger than what we used to have, we think that would improve the confidence of investors, and that is actually a positive outlook. to the economy as a whole.
Yeah, one of the points that Renaissance Capital Needs Research picks up is on the fact that they're expecting loan growth to be quite strong in 2012. In fact, they're forecasting something like 25 to 35%. That sounds like a large figure to me, sitting outside of Nigeria. What about to you?
To me, I think that the fact that we expect loan growth between about 25%, I think that's actually a good one in terms of the return to the banks, and I think it's actually going to be positive for the market.